It wasn't the claws or the teeth that haunt me. It was the way it smiled. A human smile, on a face that was anything but. Nightbound Bloodline presents 5 American horror stories. The Werewolf. The modern world has lights for every shadow, an explanation for every sound. But there are places where the old dark still clings, where the stories our ancestors told around dying fires weren't stories at all, but warnings. What you are about to hear are 5 first-hand accounts from ordinary people who walked into that dark and brought something back with them. They are mechanics, nurses, students, skeptics, everyone. Or at least, they used to be. Their stories, in their own words. Account 1. The Thing in the Franklin County Quarry. My name is David. At least, that's what you can call me. I'm 44 years old. I've been a long-haul trucker for nearly 2 decades. I've driven through every kind of night this country has to offer, from desert black to mountain blizzard. My point is, I'm not jumpy. I don't believe in ghost stories. If I can't load it on a pallet or see it on my logbook, I don't give it much thought. I've always been that way. Or I was, until the detour. It was last November. A major wreck had I-81 shut down for hours. My GPS rerouted me down a series of back roads in Franklin County, places so deep the streetlights just give up. My rig was too big for some of those turns, so I found a place to pull over and wait it out. An old, abandoned limestone quarry. It was just a wide, gravel lot carved into the side of a wooded hill, perfect for getting some shut-eye. The moon was full, a bright, cold disk that washed everything in this pale, blue-silver light. It was quiet, not peaceful quiet. The dead quiet you get when every animal, every insect, has decided to hold its breath. I was in my bunk, just drifting off, when I heard the first rock clatter. Just a pebble skittering down the quarry face. Probably a raccoon. Then another, and another. A whole cascade, like something heavy was moving up there. I sat up, peered out my passenger window towards the tree line at the top of the quarry wall. Nothing. The woods were just a solid wall of black. That's when the smell hit me. It seeped into the cab. A thick, wet dog stink, mixed with something else, like old blood and spoiled meat. I've hit deer before. This was that, but sharper, living. My neck hair stood up. A primal signal I didn't even know I had. Then, it stepped out of the tree line, silhouetted against the moon at the top of the quarry. I froze. It stood on 2 legs. It was tall, 8 feet if it was an inch, but hunched, with these immense, sloping shoulders. Its head was wolf, but not. The snout was too short, the brow ridge too heavy, like a wolf and a bear had been melted together. And the eyes, they caught the moonlight and threw it back as 2 points of dull, amber fire. It was looking down, right at my truck, right at me. Its fur wasn't fur. In that light, it looked like matted, black wire, glued to skin that seemed to writhe over its muscles. It took a step forward, and a shale slab under its foot cracked like a gunshot. It came down the sheer quarry wall, not climbing, walking, digging its claws, long, curved sickles of black, into the rock like it was soft clay. It moved with a terrible, liquid grace. No hurry. It knew I was trapped. I fumbled for the ignition, my hands slick with sweat. The diesel engine roared to life, a shockingly loud sound in that silence. The creature paused, halfway down the wall. It tilted its head, and then it smiled. Its muzzle pulled back, stretching taut over a nightmare of teeth, but the curve of it, it was a human expression, a knowing, cruel smirk. That broke me. I threw the truck in gear, spinning gravel. I didn't look back until I was back on pavement, my heart trying to batter its way out of my ribs. In my side mirror, I saw a single, dark shape standing in the center of the road behind me, watching me flee. I drove until dawn. I was shaking so bad I had to pull over twice. I never reported it. What would I say? I've never taken that route again. I'll add 100 miles to my trip to avoid that whole county. You spend your life believing the world is a knowable place, a mechanical place. Then you see something like that, and the gears come loose. It wasn't a bear. It wasn't a man in a costume. I know what I saw, and it saw me. Sometimes, on clear nights when the moon is too bright, I'll catch that wet fur and rot smell on the breeze, just for a second. I know it's just memory, but I also know I never used to have that memory. It feels less like remembering and more like being remembered. Account 2. The Crossroads Howl. I'm Maya. I'm 22, a nursing student at the university in Missoula. I'm practical. You have to be in my field. Blood and bones are just parts of a system. I thought I understood reality pretty well. My boyfriend, Kyle, was the opposite, a total folklore nerd, always dragging me on his legend trips. That's what he called it. The night it happened, he wanted to visit the Devil's Crossroads, out past Lolo Pass. Some old tale about a miner who made a pact there and turned into a wolf. I went along to humor him. I should have stayed home. It was just past midnight, deep autumn. The crossroads were nothing special. A dirt intersection in a sea of pine forest, so remote even the stars felt closer. The air was knife-cold and pine-scented. Kyle was in his element, setting up his digital recorder, talking about psychic echoes. I was leaning against the car, sipping terrible gas station coffee, smiling at his enthusiasm, but feeling the immense, pressing weight of the wilderness around us. It was so quiet. No wind. Then, the recording devices died. Both his fancy recorder and my phone screen just went black. A full battery to nothing in a heartbeat. Kyle was thrilled. Energy displacement, he whispered. I just felt cold. That's when we heard the first howl. It came from the north tree line. It wasn't a coyote's yip or a wolf's mournful song. This was a deep, guttural, hacking sound. It was wet, like it was tearing itself out of a throat not meant for it. It ended in a choked growl. Kyle's smile vanished. The second howl came from the east. Impossible speed. It was closer. This one had a sharper, higher pitch at the end, almost a mimicry of a human scream. A third howl, from the south, right behind us. It was a bass rumble that I felt in my teeth. We were being surrounded by sound. The smell arrived with it, coppery, like hot pennies in fresh-turned earth. Kyle fumbled for the car keys. The headlights flashed on as he unlocked it. And in that sudden, stark beam, I saw it. At the center of the crossroads, where the two dirt ruts met. It was crouched low, one long-fingered, claw-tipped hand pressed into the mud. It was built like a starved man but covered in a patchy, mange-ridden pelt of gray and rust red. Its spine was a jagged line of knobs pushing against the skin. It turned its head towards the light. No wolf has a neck that long, that's sinuous. Its eyes were milky, cataract-covered orbs that still somehow fixed on us. Its jaw hung open, panting, a thick rope of saliva swinging. And I saw its teeth were not pointed, but flat and blunt like a human's, stained dark. It didn't charge. It pushed itself to its feet, moving stiffly, like its joints were welded wrong. It took one step towards our car, then another. Its gait was a lurching, painful shamble. It opened that horrible mouth again, and the sound that came out wasn't a howl. It was a word. Garbled, wet, but unmistakable. Mayan, Kyle screamed. He shoved me into the passenger seat and scrambled over the console. The creature began to run, not on all fours, but in a clumsy, terrifying sprint on two legs, its arms pinwheeling for balance. Its headlights caught its face, a mask of pure, stupid hunger. It wasn't a clever predator. It was a broken, starving thing, and that was so much worse. Kyle peeled out, spraying the thing with gravel. I looked back. It had stopped in the middle of the road, throwing its head back. It didn't howl. It wailed. A high, lost, human sound that chased us for miles. We didn't speak until we saw the first town lights. We never went legend tripping again. We broke up a month later. Couldn't look at each other without seeing that thing in the headlights. Kyle deleted all his recordings, wiped his hard drive. I'm studying to heal bodies, but I don't know how to heal what that night did. Because the folklore was wrong. It wasn't a miner who became a wolf. It was something that got stuck halfway, and it's still there at those crossroads, hungry, and remembering how to speak. Account 3. The Churchyard Sentinel. Name's Carl. I'm 68. Retired police officer, 35 years on the force in a small Ohio River town. I've seen the worst people can do to each other. I don't scare easy, and I don't believe in monsters. Monsters are human. At least, that's what I used to say. This challenged that. It was after my wife, Eleanor, passed. I'd take these long, late walks to tire myself out enough to sleep. One of my routes went past the old St. Ignatius churchyard. It's been closed for years, iron fence around it, stones going back to the 1700s. A quiet place. It was a September night, warm, the air heavy with the smell of decaying leaves and river mud. The moon was that rusty orange color, a hunter's moon, they call it. I was walking along the fence line, the iron bars throwing long, jail cell shadows across the path. The churchyard was still, too still. No rustle of possums, no owls, just the distant hum of the river. I felt a prickle on the back of my neck, the old cop sense screaming that I wasn't alone. I stopped, looked into the graveyard. Between two tall, winged angel statues, I saw a darker shape. I assumed it was a third statue, one I'd never noticed. I kept walking. My shoes on the gravel were the only sound. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Then, a fourth crunch, out of sync with my steps. I stopped. The fourth crunch finished a half second later. I turned slowly. The dark shape between the angels was gone. My heart did a slow, heavy roll in my chest. I scanned the graves. There. It was now beside a large obelisk, 20 yards inside the fence. Still a stone. It was just a deeper patch of shadow. I told myself it was a trick of the light, started walking again, faster. Crunch, crunch. Crunch, crunch. The matching footsteps were back, keeping perfect time from inside the fence. I could smell it now. Damp stone, cold soil, and that same underlying feral musk. I whirled, pulling the small flashlight from my pocket. The beam cut across the iron bars and landed on it. It wasn't between graves anymore. It was at the fence, gripping the bars with hands that were too long, fingers ending in thick, black nails. It was crouched, so its height was hard to gauge, but the shoulders were massive, rounded like boulders. It had no fur. Its skin was the mottled gray-green of old marble, slick as if wet. Its face, God, it had the stretched, elongated muzzle of a canine, but the skin was tight and hairless, pulled back from yellow, gritted teeth. Its eyes were sunk deep in bony sockets, just chips of reflective white, like quartz in a cliff face. It wasn't breathing. It was just holding the bars, watching me. It didn't snarl. It didn't try to shake the fence. It just stared with that blank, mineral gaze. Then, with a sound that made my knees weak, the grinding squeal of stressed metal, it began to pull. The iron bar in its left hand started to bend inward, not with frantic rage, but with a terrible, inexorable strength. It was making a door. I backed up, the flashlight beam trembling over its hands, its arms, that dead face. It turned its head slightly, following the light, and for the first time, its mouth moved. It wasn't a snarl. It was a silent shaping of a word. I couldn't hear it, but I could read its lips in the beam. Stay. It was a cop's command. My own command, used 1,000 times. I ran. I didn't look back. I could hear the metallic pop and twang of iron giving way. I didn't stop until I was locked in my house, every light on. I called it in. Of course I did. Former cop, reporting vandalism at St. Ignatius. The next morning, 2 officers met me there. A whole section of the historic iron fence was torn outward, bars bent like soft plastic. They found no footprints, no tools, just deep, gouged scratches in the stone path leading from the fence to a particular grave, a worn, anonymous marker from 1898. The report said vandals. I retired for good the next week. I don't walk at night anymore. That thing, it was an animal. It was something older, a guardian or a prisoner made of the very stone and sorrow of that place. It knew what I was, and it spoke in a voice it stole from me. The world isn't just people. Sometimes, the ground itself remembers, and what it remembers can get up. Account 4. The Mimic in the Michigan Pines. I'm Leo. I'm 29. I work as a sound engineer for a podcast studio in Grand Rapids. My whole life is about listening, isolating frequencies, finding the truth in the noise. I trust my ears more than my eyes. Last summer, a group of us rented a cabin near the Manistee National Forest for a week. It was supposed to be a digital detox. No cell service, just board games and beer. It was until the last night. The cabin was a rustic A-frame, surrounded by a dense cathedral of white pines. The air always smelled of resin and damp wood. That final night, a thick fog rolled in off the lake, swallowing the trees until the world ended about 30 feet from the windows. We were all inside, a fire cracking in the hearth. The conversation died down, and in that quiet, the forest felt attentive. Around 2 a.m., I woke up needing to piss. I stepped out onto the back deck. The fog was so dense it drank the porch light, turning everything into a blurred, gray void. The silence was absolute. No crickets, no frogs from the lake. It was the silence of a recording studio, a dead room. I finished up and was about to go inside when I heard it. A twig snap, deep in the fog. Then another, closer. A slow, deliberate crunch on the pine needles. Something big, walking the tree line. My skin went cold. "Hello," I called out, feeling stupid. The footsteps stopped. Then, from the fog, about 50 feet out, a voice called back. "Hello." It was my voice. An exact, flawless copy. The cadence, the slight rasp from the campfire smoke, everything. But it was wrong. It came from a place no human could be standing, right in the thickest part of the pines. A parody of confusion. "Is someone out there?" I whispered. A half-second later, the fog whispered back. "Is someone out there?" Fear, cold and sharp, locked me in place. I saw a shape begin to coalesce in the murk. It moved on all fours, but its silhouette was all wrong. The front limbs were too long, the shoulders too high, like a hyena built from shadows and bad angles. It paused at the edge where the light gave up. The fog swirled around it, granting glimpses. A matted, black pelt clumped with pine sap, a spine ridged like a dinosaur's, an elongated head that swung slowly from side to side, sniffing the air. Then it turned, and 2 points of reflected light, my porch light caught in its eyes, winked at me from the gloom. They were too far apart on its skull. They didn't blink. "Leo." The voice came from behind the cabin now. It was Sam's voice, my friend inside. "You okay, man?" It sounded concerned, tired. The thing was trying to lure me off the deck, into the fog. I couldn't speak. I just stared into the trees where the shape still lurked. Then, it used my wife's voice. Jess had stayed home. Her voice, sweet and clear, cut through the quiet. "Baby, I'm scared. Can you come here?" It was perfect. Every intimate inflection. The thing in the pines took a step forward, into the faintest halo of light. I saw its mouth. It wasn't moving in sync with the words. The black lips were pulled back, the jaw slightly open, but the voice was coming from somewhere deep inside it, a sickening ventriloquist act. It was learning, sampling us from the week, and now it was playing its tracks back. It took another step. I finally found my legs, slammed back into the cabin, and deadbolt the door. I spent the rest of the night watching the fog through the window. It didn't try the door. It just waited. At one point, I heard my own voice, right outside the wall, humming a song I'd been humming while making coffee that morning. At dawn, the fog lifted. There were no tracks in the soft soil, just a single, deep gouge in the pine needle duft where it had stood, and a foul, musky odor that hung in the air for hours. We left that morning. I told the others I'd heard a bear. They believed me. Jess says I'm distant now. I am. I work with sound, with perfect digital reproductions of the human voice. But now I know a truth that chills me. The most perfect mimicry isn't digital. It's biological. It's hungry. And it's out there in the old woods, learning new voices every day. I don't answer unfamiliar calls anymore. Account 5. The pack at the truck stop. My name is Anya. I'm 37. I'm a regional manager for a chain of highway truck stops. My life is diesel, fluorescent lights, and logistics. The world of the interstate is its own ecosystem, and I know its rhythms. The one on I-90 near Sheridan, Wyoming, was my problem site. Reports of vandalism, broken security cameras. I drove out to assess it myself. I arrived just after midnight. The place was a lone island of light in a vast, dark sea of prairie. The lot was empty except for one rig, a long hauler idling softly at the far end. The air was crisp, the sky a vast dome of stars. The big, overhead halogens buzzed, painting everything in a harsh, blue-white glare. It should have felt safe. It felt exposed. I did my walk around, checking fence lines. The silence of the plains is different from forest silence. It's a vast, humming emptiness. As I reached the back of the property, near the scrubby ditch that marked its edge, I heard a low whine. Not mechanical, animal, paint, then a chuffing sound, and another. I froze, peering into the darkness beyond the light's reach. My eyes adjusted. Shapes, low to the ground, moving in the tall grass. 4 or 5 of them, big, the size of German shepherds, but leaner, moving with a slinking, fluid gait. Coyotes, I thought. Old ones. I clapped my hands sharply. Hey, get out of here. The shapes stopped. All of them. As one, they turned their heads towards me. And they stood up. Not a startled jump on a hind legs. A smooth, unsettling rise from quadruped to bipedal stance. They were taller than men, their postures stooped, their long arms hanging. The one in front took a single, shuffling step into the edge of the light. Its fur was the color of dust and dried blood. It wasn't looking at my face. It was staring at the bright, reflective strip on my company jacket. They didn't snarl. They didn't hunch to attack. They just observed. The one in the light tilted its head. Its muzzle was elongated, but its brow was pronounced, intelligent. Its eyes weren't animal. They held a cold, calculating curiosity. It looked from my jacket to the buzzing halogen above me, to the idling truck in the distance. It was assessing. I saw its nostrils flare, tasting the air, diesel, fear, my perfume. The others began to slowly fan out, not to surround me, but to flank the perimeter of the light. They moved with a silent, tactical precision that froze the blood in my veins. These weren't beasts driven by hunger. This was a patrol. The lead creature lifted a hand. Its fingers, too long and ending in thick, blunt claws, flexed. It pointed one claw, not at me, but at the security camera mounted on a pole above us. The camera was shattered, the housing cracked. It pointed, then slowly dragged its claw across its own throat in a universal, chillingly human gesture. A warning. Then it dropped back to all fours. The others did the same. They didn't run. They melted back into the darkness, their movement a synchronized, rustling whisper in the grass. Gone. I stood there, shaking. The smell they left behind was ozone, hot metal, and that same deep, wild musk. I walked backwards to my car, never turning my back to the ditch. I drove to the next town and checked into a motel. I didn't sleep. I filed a report about vandalism by a coordinated group, citing feral dogs. I recommended the site install motion-activated floodlights. They thought I was overreacting. I quit my job 2 months later. I couldn't shake the memory of that pointed claw, that intelligent, dismissive gaze. We think of these things as monsters from the wilderness, but what if some have adapted? What if they understand our territory, our highways, our outposts of light, better than we understand theirs? They weren't there to hunt me. They were there on reconnaissance, and they made sure I knew it. The frontier isn't gone. It's just learned to walk on 2 legs, and it's watching our truck stops, counting our cameras, and deciding we're not even a threat. We're just part of the landscape now. 5 accounts. 5 ordinary lives, irrevocably touched by the extraordinary. A trucker, a student, a retired officer, a sound engineer, a business manager. Their worlds, once solid and explainable, now forever contain a crack of impossible darkness. What binds these stories together is not just the presence of a creature, but the profound violation of natural law they represent. These are not mere animal attacks. These are encounters with something that possesses a terrifying intelligence, a mocking awareness, and a shape that should not be. David's quarry creature displayed cruel cognition. Maya's crossroads entity remembered human speech. Carl Stone's sentinel commanded with his own voice. Leo's mimic compiled a library of sounds to lure its prey. Anya's pack conducted a tactical survey of human infrastructure. This suggests a haunting possibility that these entities are not just surviving in the forgotten corners of our world, they are adapting, studying us. Perhaps even fear, as we know it, is becoming obsolete to them. These witnesses did not find monsters from a storybook. They found something far more unsettling, a reality where the storybooks were pale imitations of the truth. A truth that walks on 2 legs in the Michigan fog, that guards forgotten graves with stone-carved malice, that understands the strategic value of a highway truck stop. The world is not as small as our maps suggest. Between the interstates, under the blood moon's gaze, in the silence that falls when all the crickets stop at once, the old world breathes. And it is watching. If you have a story, a memory from the edge of the map that refuses to fade, we invite you to share it. The comments are a testament to those who are no longer alone in what they know. Your account could be the thread that connects another shattered experience to the whole. If the shadows in these tales held you, consider subscribing to Nightbound Bloodline. Your support allows us to keep searching for these truths in the dark. And, of course, if you feel so moved, a like on this video helps others find their way to our channel. This has been Nightbound Bloodline. Thank you for listening. Until next time, sleep with one eye open.